Ooh, it's going to be a bit of a muddy one today. I did not realise how muddy it was down here, but oh well. Never mind, we shall proceed. Onwards, as they say. But do excuse me if I don't end up looking at the screen or sort of not paying attention to. There's a bit of a pony situation. Just really trying to. There we go. But yes, as always, good morning, one and all. Like I say, I'll let you all filter in before we crack on today with our main subject, which is, once again, Brexiteers desperately seeking America. Honestly, some sort of, bizarre, I don't know, romantic relationship that they seem to seek with America, but they've been told many times it's not going to happen, and there's no chance of it happening, but they're still after it. They're broken up with one partner in the EU and are now determined, or at least still determined, that they are going to get this trade deal with America. And honestly, there's a thing about sort of, body language and sort of reading body language about how people are. And there's this infamous clip where, like, Biden and Rishi are sitting down at a table, and you can just see Biden just doesn't care. You can just tell Biden just doesn't care. Doesn't give a damn. And yet Rishi just seems really nervous, like a schoolboy. But we'll get into more of that later. But this gate just gets worse and worse. There comes a point where you're like, is there even a point having a gate here anymore? Because it's that bad. It's not even a gate anymore, I just have to drag it. But there we go. But yes, good morning. Good morning to you all. And welcome to the Good Morning Walk. Like I say, it's going to be a bit... Hang on, there we go. There we go. So you can't slip past. There we go. Well, like I say, good morning to you all. This might suddenly get rained off, I'm not gonna lie. So I was a bit pessimistic about it actually being outdoors today, to be honest, given the last week's weather. And like I say, you can tell just by, once again, how muddy it is down here. But that is the usual thing that we always try and strive and see. Yeah. I think in an attempt to try and make this better, they might have made it worse, but who knows. Oh, there we go. We go. Ugh. I'm so glad I decided to put an old pair of jeans on today. Anyway, right, where were we? Yes. So, of course, it's the big anniversary in Northern Ireland this week. Of course, 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement. In fact, it's kind of strange that there's actually quite a popular video floating around at the moment about the Good Friday Agreement. and one of the people that I know from JCI Belfast. Kath OG, good morning to you. Like I say, one of the people that I know from JCI Belfast is actually in it. That's his main. He's actually in this video, and he's actually talking about what the the Good Friday Agreement and growing up, because he's roughly about the same age as me. And it must have been really weird, having that experience growing up in that environment. And I've said before, I worry the fact that Brexit may have, maybe planted some seeds in there that might unfortunately turn violent. I can only hope they don't, because I don't want any violence to happen there. But the fact that, as we said before, that Brexiteers really didn't care about Northern Ireland until it started causing problems. And of course, Kate Hoey infamously, of course, said that Northern Ireland would not be a problem. And of course, well, look how well that turned out. So, either way, I think the fact that this peace process, seems to have somewhat survived Brexit so far intact, but also still being, again, one of the most successful peace processes in the world, is a fact that should definitely, obviously, be celebrated. Bakura, good morning to you. So it is good that these are 91 leads. Good morning to you. Like I say, please do remember to hit the share button as well. I say let everyone know we are a bit later than usual today, so I do apologise for that. But like I say, I wasn't sure of the weather, and to be honest, I'm still not sure of the weather even now. So we'll see how far we get. But one of certainly the big concerns is, of course, what was the guarantee? How did it get the peace process to work so well? Well, one of the big sort of guarantees, and the fact that we could sort of see it as a more neutral arbiter, because the Unionists didn't want America or Ireland to be like an arbiter, because they felt that they were more aligned with the Republicans, and the Republicans didn't want, of course, the UK involved. So there was a compromise that actually managed to be reached, that instead of the UK courts or Irish or American courts being used as a arbiter, like a final arbiter for any problems that might arise during the peace process, instead it was decided to use the European Court of Human Rights. Now, for those of you who know about this will know that this is very quickly becoming a seminal issue in the Conservative Party. The idea that we should leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And the thing is, if we did that, people talk about Brexit being a disaster. Oh, Phil, good morning to you. Oh, hang on. There we go. People talk about Brexit being a disaster, but there are bigger problems, even massive problems, political problems, treaty problems, that if we leave the European Convention on Human Rights, morning Cal, if we leave this, this causes huge ramifications. I mean, first of all, the Good Friday Agreement is built upon pretty much being in the European Convention of Human Rights. So if you leave or even denounce parts of that, then this calls into really, really, really big problems about what you do in and around the convention on those. Oh, do we risk it? Because I can see the ball. Do we risk it? Or do we just go around him? Might have to go around him. I can see him as there. I can see they're on the move. He's being herded on over there. So let's just go down this way. Let's give him a wide berth just to make sure. Just to make sure, we'll give him a wide berth. So, leaving the European Convention. Larry the Cat, good morning to you. So, leaving like the European Convention on Human Rights, or in the European Court, is going to be a significant problem. Good morning, Pagan. Good morning to you. So leaving this is going to be a colossal problem. But this is becoming very quickly the big issue within the Tory party. And of course, it's the usual people who champion Brexit, saying, oh no, you don't understand, we've got to leave Brexit because it's stopping us doing all this stuff. Well, yeah, there's a reason it's stopping you doing all this stuff, because you signed up to doing it. Factasm, good morning to you. Like I say, it's there for a reason. And yet we've seen many, many times right-wing institutions turn to this court to try and gain some sort of protection. And the best example at the moment is, of course, the Daily Mail is going to the European Court to try and get, some form of protection at the moment. So hypocrisy abounds about sort of right-wingers when they do, when they don't want to be a part of the European Court of Human Rights. But as we said, yeah, and that's very true, Fatgasm. That's going to be the next push I think you see, sort of from Conservatives saying, oh yeah, we want to leave, the European Convention on Human Rights. That's their next goal. That's what they want to try and do, because they're trying to, at the moment, say us being in this doesn't make us sovereign. We are, it damages our sovereignty being this. It's the exact same arguments that we saw not only during the referendum, but the lead up to the referendum. And of course, the Brexiteers talking about Brexit and how they planned that all to work. And of course, it should be immediately brought forward to anyone who think this is a good idea. Brexit isn't turning out that well. Hootenanny, good morning to you. What's this? Oh no, Nadine is joining the Daily Mail. Oh well. Yes, well, the Daily Mail can have another amazing star as Nadine Dorris. A couple morning ponies for you. And we'll get into the voter stuff in a bit. But that is... yeah, that is going to be a disaster. Because how come a 60 plus bus pass counts as a valid ID, but an 18 plus one doesn't? Yeah, he's basically trying to go and stop young people voting. Patrick H, good morning to you. And trust me, I think there's going to be an almighty outcry about this. Patrick Lane, good morning to you. But back to European Court of Human Rights, probably get onto that, because I could just start a full tangent on that completely before we finish this one. This is easily going to be the next big thing that they want, and the next big thing that they push for, that, oh, it's stopping us, sending people to Rwanda. Well, we've had this week, whether anyone saw, that it's been a year since this threat to deter people, to send people to Rwanda, has been sort of in effect, and yet hasn't deterred people. It hasn't deterred people at all. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if we did actually finally start sending people to Rwanda, whether we would just put them on a plane to Rwanda, and then all of a sudden, oh look, here you are again. And of course, Rwanda's got its own problems. And the fact that we're having to give Rwanda a massive load of money to be able to set up these places, yet Rwanda has numerous human rights issues when it comes to refugees. And Patel and Johnson at the time knew about them. They've been brought up in Parliament before about these breaches and what is going on, and what tends to happen to refugees in Rwanda. Yeah, that is going to be a national embarrassment when that happens. And there's probably going to be an almighty outcry. Because we've said, if they were really serious about actually trying to solve this problem, they wouldn't be wanting to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, which, as we've said, not only would this completely torpedo the Good Friday Agreement, it would mean that our withdrawal agreement and the current trade agreement we have with the EU also gets torpedoed. That would mean huge collective trouble at the border, and would completely stagnate trade, and it would result in a trade war, which we would not win because the EU is a larger market. And yet this is the path they think is going to sort of be a good idea. And yet, as we've said before, there's a lot of stuff recently coming out in terms of data. All the economists are now pretty much singing from the same hymn sheet. What's the problem with our economy? It's Brexit. Brexit is the source of all our problems for this economy. The idea that Brexit would just go away, unfortunately, no. We always said it. Brexit was always going to be this forever issue. And unless they actually had some proper ideas about how to solve Brexit, then, well, it's not going to work. And I've said this before, but I think we're going to end up back in the single market and customs union first, I think. Then we'll probably end up being full EU members, because people are just going to go, well, since we're in, Why aren't we full members? Once again, and like I say, I think as soon as that happens, the Brexiteers don't have a leg to stand on. They've lost every single argument. They've lost the political one, they've lost the sovereignty argument, they've lost the economic argument massively. So it's only just a matter of time. Yeah. I mean, you look at the economy at the moment. We had the Bank of England saying, I think in February, the economy just didn't grow. So, it's really not a good idea. And that's actually a good point. Fatgasm, something people don't talk about. In that agreement, we've agreed to take, refugees in from Rwanda. No one seems to want to even admit that that's in the treaty. Even the government is trying to deny that that is in the treaty, but that's what they signed. That's what they signed. That's what they signed up for. And there's going to be some awful stories, you can guarantee, coming from Rwanda soon, finding out what's happened. Because Israel have tried this, Australia have tried this. These places did not turn out well. And the barges is an even more hilarious story. Oh yes, we're going to put people on barges. And as Jess Phillips pointed out, well, even if you put people on barges, that only solves 0.03% of the problem. So how does putting people on barges actually help? And yet the way to solve this is easy and obvious. You have a safe route that refugees can use and apply through, and you fund the asylum system so that it can help to process these people faster. But of course they don't want to do that because they know people like Nigel Farage, the second that they see, oh my God, look how many, refugees are coming here, and of course they'll play the whole economic migrant card, just as they did at the referendum. Oh, these people are economic migrants, as if that should make a difference. Who cares? If they want to come to the UK, by all means, let them come to the UK. Who cares, really? Who cares? Let them live, let them work, because guess what? They'll be British citizens, they'll be contributing to the economy. And as we have seen from every single example, immigrants always contribute to the economy. They are a net positive. We are in a massive labour shortage because we have cut ourselves off from European labour. And yet there's this complete zero recognition about the fact that we've done that. It's again, it's the economic arguments of Brexit that show once again they are not working. There we go. Oh my word, can we actually get up this hill? I don't know. This could be fun. think this might be a bit too wet to get up to this day. If not, this might be a turn around and head back the other way. We'll see if we can get up. We will see. Yeah, exactly, Wakora. The less they understand the economy, the less it focuses in, and then of course they convince those people who are in a worse off situation that it's not the government's fault, it's someone else's fault, and that leads to the situations we've got now. Pretty bird, greetings, good morning to you. Can we get up? Oh, that's one. Can we get up the next part? Can we get up the next part? That is the problem. Am I? Oh! Oh! Managed to do it. Managed to do it. Oh. Graceful. Graceful. Thank you. Thank you. David, good morning to you. Yeah, that could have gone viral. I think there's only been one time where I haven't been able to make it up because I literally went up and then slid back down. But yeah, unfortunately, this is of course, the nature when you do things outside like this. It's a bit of a problem. But now, of course, we've got to walk across this path. The problem is with this path is that it's become incredibly muddy. So, like I say, if you ask me a question or anything like that in the chat and I don't respond to it, it's because I've got to pay attention to the path. So again, I do apologise if I don't respond to anything like that. Like I say, don't feel offended that I didn't respond to it or didn't respond to it. It's just the nature of the good morning walk. Like I say, I don't know. Like I say, this is the path. It doesn't look that bad, to be honest. Have you proper foot? Well, I've got my wellies on. I don't know. Can we? Oh, okay, I've got my wellies on. We'll see. I say when it starts to get a bit better, because I'll wear my walking boots, but if I were to wear my walking boots now, I just wouldn't survive. Sort of this level of mud. You've got to wade. You've got to wade through the mud, which is part of the problem. But yes, back to politics. But before we do that, like I say, please do remember to hit the like and share button as well. Like I say, that will help out massively. Oops, there we go. Help out massively. And of course, like I say, maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll get a big audience and we finally fall down on my face. One of these days. But, oh, yes. Even Liz Truss, in a god-awful speech, like I say, Pony Club members, like I say, this week, what I'm going to do is for this Wednesday's video, or this coming Wednesday's video, I am going to go over the Liz Truss question and answer session for you. So if you aren't a member of the Pony Club or on the Patreon and you want to see that, like I say, the video will come out on sort of Wednesday. Sign up below. Links are down below, and like I say, it does help support the channel. Like I say, I've got a big archive now of sort of more and more videos that I'm getting, so that's going to be quite a less selection of videos for you to enjoy as well and to catch up on before this Wednesday's comes out. So, like I say, that's the there we go. That's the bit of the shilling done. More pork markets, yes. More pork markets, all the pork markets. Liz Truss cries. In fact, that was one of the things that she said. that we should leave the European Convention on Human Rights in one of the question and answer sections. So we'll be going over that for sure on Wednesday. Needs to say, like I say, that was a marathon session, to say the least. Even when we had to sort of speed it up to get through it, it was still very, very painful. But at least you got to at least got the impression that she was a bit of a better public speaker, but she really wasn't. Even when we were speeding it up, there were points where there were just very, very much awkward pauses in and about for her, that's for sure. There we go. Isn't it better if you use the path? This is the path. So the problem is it's just not a it's just not a very well kept path, unfortunately. Like I say, they really do. Like I say, the rangers need to come down here and just start sprinkling some, like, you know, gravel or something, which will help with the water at least, or keep the tamp down the mud a bit. But that is not possible, as I say sometimes. Oh, there we go. Oh my word, it's getting even worse. Okay, this might be interesting. Okay, from this point on, I'm probably not going to be able to look at the feed, so I do apologise. Oh. So, Liz Truss, as we said, is an absolutely awful speaker, and to be honest, the question and answer session is even worse. One of the fun things about that speech is, of course, it's organised by the Heritage Foundation. If you don't know who the Heritage Foundation are, they're this dark money lobbying group think tank who, well, push the whole free market fundamentalist ideas. And of course, those are the exact same ideas that Liz Truss tried to do. And of course, many in the Tory party, well, not many, because it's not a lot of them, to be honest. And that crazy libertarian ideology is the exact same ideology that pushed Brexit. And this brings us really onto today's topic. The fact that you had Biden in Northern Ireland, and if you've seen the now infamous clip of Rishi and Biden at the table, they're drinking coffee, and you don't have to be a body language expert to see who was the more comfortable one. Like, Biden's just sat there leaning back into his chair, and yet you've got Rishi Sunak leaning forward, hands in his lap, probably fiddling with them, and he looks like an absolute schoolboy, you know, with his teacher sat in front of him saying, right, well, what we're going to do? He said, oh, I don't know what we're going to do today, sir. But this was one of the big, of course, dreams of the Brexiteers, that, you know, we would do Brexit, and then, once again, to quote the infamous now Daniel Hannan, the brain of Brexit, he said himself that the goal of Brexit was to do this free market, free trade deal with America. And this free trade deal with America would essentially make staying in the single market customs union look absolutely silly. Now, of course, when asked, were there any discussions about a free trade agreement? No, there weren't any. Like I say, Kimmy Badenoch went a couple of months ago prior, and even she was told, yeah, no, there ain't going to be any discussions about a free trade agreement. You can forget about it. And I think that's the same message that Biden. Oh dear. That Biden. Oh dear. Oh. Almost lost a welly there. Oh, almost. Let me just. Jesus Christ. There we go. Oh, we're through. We managed to wade through it. And needless to say, we won't be coming this way maybe for a while, at least until the water has receded a bit. Maybe the path has dried up a bit more, certainly for the future. But that was their goal, the whole idea. Now, why did they want to do this free trade agreement with America? What was it really about? Well, it was, of course, exactly what you would expect. It's exactly what all the other trade agreements are essentially trying to do, trying to sort of essentially force the UK into accepting lower standards via the back door. And that is partly what the Pacific Trade Agreement is all about as well. I mean, we saw it when they were all crowing about, joining the Pacific Trade Agreement, denying the fact that it's not going to be very, shall we say, economically good. But there is, of course, that they constantly talked about, well, now that we're back in, America might join, and then they might be, easy to do a trade deal with them. Ooh. Again, that mythical trade deal that they desire with America. And even Rishi Sunak was like, oh, no, you don't understand. Exports to America are going up. Hugely, as he said. Well, if you look at the numbers, exports to America aren't going up. They've pretty much stayed the same. There has been no massive increase. Once again, another lie to try and say that Brexit is working. Oh, you don't understand, oh, well, it's all right that we don't have this trade deal because, trade is going up massively. Well, again, look at the numbers. Exports are going down. Exports are going down. And that is bad for the economy. So once again, Brexit proving to be another colossal failure. And you have to wonder, as we said before, at what point does this chorus that Brexit has failed become so deafening? Even Westminster has to pay attention and listen up. Because they will have to sooner or later and just have to face the economic realities. Because even like Keir Starmer said, well, okay, we're going to do more deals with Europe, more alignment deals. Well, yeah, that's what we want. But then again, there comes a question of, well, okay, if we're doing all these alignment deals, why then was it so bad for us to be in the single market if we're wanting to follow all these rules so that we can trade better with Europe? At that point, that's when the argument to join the single market customs union becomes absolutely unavoidable. We'll end up joining that, and of course once we're in that, then question will be, well, why aren't we just members of the EU? And that is, ladies and gentlemen, how it is probably going to go. And it may take about a decade to do, but it's not impossible. And like I say, even when we do rejoin it, it's just that we're going to have to take a long, good look at the UK economy and thinking how we can make it better, because we cannot, as certainly the Conservatives would love to sort of say that they're focusing on the whole of the UK economy, but they're really not. You know, we have to look out beyond London. You know, we have to start looking at how we're building houses and how we're looking at planning, and we're also going to have to look at landlords and a ton of stuff that we're going to actually have to look at in the UK. And of course, this is where we have to start campaigning and start being really sort of progressive about it. As I've said before, people in the UK are a lot more progressive than I think people really sort of tend to admit, and we've seen this in the polls. People like a lot of the progressive ideas, but of course it's about campaigning for those ideas and how you campaign for those ideas. Because as you've seen very recently with the whole Labour attack ads, and to be honest, I initially was a bit like, well, those are bad. But I saw a piece by Saatchi. If you don't know who he is, he's one of like the big advertising gurus, and he wrote a piece about, yeah, those attack ads may be bad, but in reality, when you're in a general election, you're really in a boxing match, and you've got to land an absolute killing blow. And he said the worst thing about those ads was that they weren't bad. The problem is it didn't feed into the current zeitgeist of what the moral of the story is, because everyone knows that the justice system is a bit of an absolute tacking at the moment. But it's not, you know, it's not because Sunak isn't being, you know, harsh enough on victims of violent crime. It's because they have underfunded the justice system to a point where people are being denied justice. And as we said last week, the far better attack ad would have been Rishi Sunak, or, you know, Rishi Sunak has defunded the justice system and has denied you justice. That's a far better attack ad on the Tories, and I think it's more one that would fit with the zeitgeist. And what always really annoys me is there's a lot of people on the left who think that because they're on the left, they shouldn't be talking about law and order and justice. But no, you absolutely should be talking about law and order and justice, because if you cede that ground, well, who occupies that ground? It's people on the right. And then it doesn't look like that people on the left have a, you know, have a claim, have an answer to the law and order and justice question. When we really do, we do. It's, you know, we make sure the system is sort of funded. And of course, there's a ton of other stuff that, you know, sort of we can talk about with, you know, law and order and justice on the left, about, you know, prisons. And we've talked about this stuff before in the past. But that's what I worry about, that this ad has made Labour run away from talking about that. And I would hope that they don't, because to be honest, like I say, Keir Starmer was a chief prosecutor. In any televised debate, when it comes to sort of law and order, you know, Keir Starmer should be able to absolutely mop the floor. I say should be able to mop the floor nearly. Should be able to mop the floor with Sunak on that subject, just by saying, look, you've completely defunded the justice system and you have denied thousands of people justice. Sunak at that moment cannot get out of it. But if in a live debate setting, Starmer said that attack had to Rishi Sunak, that would allow him to escape. He'd have a wiggle room, he'd have a way out. He could go, oh, you know, here's Labour taking the low ground while we, the Tories, are occupying the high moral ground. I'm not going to, you know, attack Keir Starmer for doing that. And that's what the story was all that week about from the Tories, how bad, you know, Labour was. And it's sort of, once again, talking about a crucial issue, but it allowed the Tories to escape. And it's something we've talked about before, that you cannot allow them any wiggle room to get out. Because you look at the strike situation at the moment, and this is one thing that we were saying, because this ad proves the point about what Starmer has said, that he doesn't want Labour MPs, you know, out there on the picket line, because that then gives the Tories a way out of it. It gives them a way to slither out of it. The story then doesn't become we're on strike because the Tories have defunded the system. We're working for, you know, absolute pittance, when previously we weren't. We actually had a pretty good wage. Because the Tories have defunded the NHS. That's really the story of these strikes. That's why there is so much public support for the strikes. The second any Labour MP turns up to any of those strikes, you immediately give the Tories a wiggle room out. Because they can now turn around and say, you see, these strikes aren't about pay, it's about Labour you know, trying to ruin the country by its, you know, paymasters in the trade unions. That's what all of a sudden the story will come out about. That's why Keir Starmer doesn't want Labour MPs at picket lines. Because that's what would happen. It would give the Tories a massive wiggle room to get out of that, about talking about the real problem of these strikes, which is their basic incompetence and them defunding the entire system that they had, and the fact that they're the problem. So that's what Keir Starmer is doing. He's being a bit cautious about it, understandably, but when it comes to a general election, I agree with Saatchi on it. You know, a general election is a boxing match, and it is going to be Sunak versus Starmer, and Starmer, right from the word go, has to start delivering not only just some serious body blows, but we're talking some serious knockout blows to the Tories' chin, because if he doesn't, and he can't do that, well, that's bad. Bear in mind that was something, again, Corbyn could not do as well. But we'll see what happens when we come to a general election. There we go. Takes it out of you walking through the mud. Good morning, Alexander Campbell. Good morning to you. And good morning to everyone else who I've missed from, like I say, trudging through the mud. Like I say, it doesn't half take it out of you when you're walking through the mud. Whew. Oh my god, I didn't get to voter ID. Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, Bakura. Yeah, we'll finish today's good morning walk on voter ID. We'll while slow and saunter down, we'll have a look at this this pony here. I'll see what this pony's got to say about voter ID. Good morning. So, voter ID at the next general election, it has been and is going to be, I think, a massive absolute scandal, where you've got hundreds of thousands of people being turned away because of this voter ID. Like I said, we've said before, the government isn't advertising it, and the fact that there is this thing to be able to apply to sort of get an ID, well, only sort of like 0.2% have actually applied for it, and there's over like 2 million like adults out there who they probably know do not have the correct ID. People are going to go to the polls not with their ID, because we've never had to do this before. Voter ID is a complete red herring. Yeah, why do people always complain until after it's too late? It's the easy fact that people don't pay attention to politics, Makora. We've said this before. This is one of the biggest problems in the UK, that the British public is not as politically turned on. This is why I've said I wish the British public had just like, you know, was like just a little bit more at the French public. At least they pay attention to their politics, hence why we've seen all these big protests about in it. And yeah, Labour need to signal boost this. Exactly. Well, we've actually seen my own local council, the local Labour council, has actually complained about this and said themselves this is going to be an absolute disaster. Ooh. You think I've got something for you? They think it's going to be an absolute disaster. And bear in mind, the last time we tried a big change like this, I think it was 2010, and about 1,000 people, I think, roughly got disenfranchised, and they overturned it. There is going to be an absolute almighty outcry against this. This is going to become a massive political issue, I think, and it is going to be really shown that this voter ID system is going to be a massive failure. That the Tories are going to, oh no, you don't understand. We've been telling people for months that they had to have ID. Well, again, I've said this before. If you are living in the UK, and let's say, obviously, you've watched me, so you know about this because I've talked about this. I maybe suspect other UK YouTubers have maybe talked about this as well. But imagine for a second, you sort of delete that information of what we've told you from your mind about this. Can you think of anywhere else you've seen this information about voter ID and about what is the correct voter ID to take? Because I'll tell you now, it is not as widespread as people think. It is not widespread at all. So I normally like to vote sort of first thing in the morning. I like to get there, down there sort of, you know, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed down there to vote. But part of me thinks this year what I might do is I might leave it late, because sometimes you can chat to like the pollsters, and one of the things I want to go in and ask them is how many people haven't brought their ID. I guarantee you. Oh. Maybe fall for you. I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of people out there who have not brought their ID when it comes to the polls. And that is going to be an absolute nightmare. And then this will become a massive political issue. And will they drop it? Chances are that they might. Yeah, exactly, because they've only talked about it on the news yesterday. Well, congratulations, you've only got about a week left, I think, to be able to apply for the correct voter ID, because you can't apply, it's too late now to apply for a postal vote. And even then, if you apply for a postal vote, how do you prove that's your identification, that you're filling it out? Rufus Good, what sort of ID sort of required? Yeah, passport and driving license will do, but there's things like a 60 plus bus pass applies, but a 18 plus bus pass doesn't. There's a, the ID that they've selected, they've said, oh, it should be photo ID, but then they've said that it should be photo ID, but they've discounted a ton of like actual photo ID that people have and people can use. I mean, I'm looking for the fact that I have like my driver's license in my wallet all the time, so it's like it's not going to be an issue if someone if I go to the polls, I can go, there you go. Oh, Larry Catless, the 25th is the last date to apply. Is that for the postal vote, or is that for the? Oh no, that'll be the voter ID, won't it? The other voter ID you can apply for. And like I say, very few people have actually applied for that scheme. Does student ID count? No. Student ID doesn't count. Yeah, honestly, it's very, very targeted for the types of IDs that young people would have, not to be applicable. So make no mistake, come May the 5th, when the votes are being cast, there's going to be an almighty outcry from a whole section of people. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it's on that evening, with probably like BBC camera crews there saying that, I got turned away because I don't have that ID. And when they've gone to look at the list, they've gone, oh, well, I don't have that ID. And again, this idea that, oh, it has been widely publicised. No, it really hasn't. It really has not been widely publicised. Oh. There we go. But anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens when that happens. So, yeah, it's going to be an absolute outcry, honestly, and they should make it Labour should make this a full thing, that this has been an absolute disaster. Why have they introduced this? And just sort of force them to just undo it. And they would potentially have that success, because you just get the Electoral Commission in and just say, well, yeah, this whole ID vote system has been a massive disaster. It's disenfranchised thousands of people. And there could be an argument put forward. Remember, local elections, as we've said before, have a really low voter turnout. So your average voter turnout for a local election is around 25%. I would be very interested to know what the turnout is going to be at this next election, because I think a lot of the reason for the low turnout will be the fact that people went to the polls, didn't have that ID, and couldn't vote. So I think you are going to see even lower levels, potentially, at these next coming local elections. So, and I've said this before, in some local elections, you only need about sort of 200 or 300 people to vote for you, and you can win. Like I say, that's how low the turnout is in some of these local elections, to actually be able to win to become a local councillor. It's not impossible. It's not impossible to win in a local election. Local elections in the US are abysmal. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But that's to be honest, I think a fault of very much the left and the Democrats for not advertising how much local elections are. And I think it's the same with the left here in the UK, that they don't make a big thing of actually how important local elections are, and what you can actually do and achieve at a local election. And like I say, I've talked about sort of local elections and sort of local politics before, and I will admit I don't do a lot of those videos, because I'm not gonna lie, not many of you watch them. when I do them about the local politics and how important local politics is, and I understand that. National politics is a lot more. It gets the more views, and it doesn't dissuade me from doing videos. It just makes me go, well, if there's something big nationally happening, well, I won't do the video about local elections. That's unfortunately just how it is sometimes on YouTube. Like I say, unfortunately, we've got to be slaves to the algorithm sometimes. Bit disappointing, but that's just how, unfortunately, YouTube works and runs. But as always, thank you very much for joining me on today's Good Morning Walk. It's been absolutely fantastic. Like I say, for those of you wanting to watch the question and answer session, I'm going to record that on Wednesday for our Pony Club members and, of course, the Patreon members. Like I say, links down below for that hang on, there we go, we'll get the pony in down below are for that to join. There's also the Buy Me a Coffee link down below as well, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, please remember to hit the like and share button on your way out. And of course, do remember to leave a comment down below as well. That helps with all the algorithmical things and stuff. So as always, thank you very much. And of course, we'll see you all next week for another Good Morning Walk. And of course, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. As always, you can't be safe, be sensible. And until then, we'll see you all next time.